Happy Monday, crypto traders. According to the polls, the Trump landslide narrative is being challenged, which is the narrative that the stock market and cryptocurrency have been preparing for the last 2 weeks. If Harris wins, the market will likely panic, meaning prices will go down, most likely quite sharply. However, with a flood of stimulus money that would come after a Democrat victory, the markets would eventually get over it and continue on to pump. So be prepared for a volatile week of trading. However, the emphasis should be on the eventual continuation of the trend and upside. However, if Trump wins, expect markets to pump and then continue to pump. Either a Trump or Harris victory are bullish, medium to long term, particularly for Bitcoin, because the underlying narrative is bullish. But we've got a lot to cover today, so let's get cracking. All right, starting off with our dominance stats. As we can see, Bitcoin dominance is currently sitting at about 60.34%, Solana dominance at 3.37%, and Ethereum dominance at 13.19%. So as we can see, Bitcoin just continues its epic climb. 60% though is about the level that we had been looking at for a long time. It's a pretty common level. We can just kind of take this back. If you can go look at the weekly or anything like that. But 60%, although it can continue to run, this is typically a good area where we do start to see, in a bull market anyways, diversification or the beginnings of diversification into altcoins. So I do believe it is possible that the altcoin bottom is close. If we just look at the overall altcoin market capitalization, it's about 30% off of its bottom. So while we still have a ways to go down as far as altcoins go, we could still continue to trend down. Again, I think we are getting to the area where we are going to broadly begin to see diversification of those assets as we continue on with the next leg of our rally over the coming months. But as far as today goes, dominance slipped a little bit as the market was largely risk off today. Altcoin dominance, we can see, just continues its plunge, currently sitting at 15.65%. And we do see, of course, stablecoin dominance moving up to about 7.45%. So nothing too crazy here. This all makes a lot of sense. We're seeing de-risking, although the de-risking today was significantly less than it had been over the basically over the last few weeks. All right, getting into Bitcoin's weekly analysis, we do, of course, have another weekly close. Last week closed as an evening star candle, also known as an inverted hammer candle. This is typically considered a bearish rejection candle or a reversal pattern. The reason why is because this candle in price action analysis tends to highlight the fact that although buyers were able to enthusiastically push price up quite high away from its opening, they were unable to maintain that momentum, and that once price reached a high value area, an overbought high value area, sellers are able to successfully suppress price and sell into that, overwhelm buying demand, and push price all the way back down close to its open. Now, we did still close higher, so it's not a total wash, but we are currently testing that right now. But this, again, is broadly what was expected. Having a de-risking into the election is completely fine. We talked about that last week. And now that's actually on par for what we've seen in 2016 and 2020. But what's really important is not a specific price point, but zones. All right, when we're talking about support and resistance, and we can identify these zones through the use of the visible range volume profile tool. So I want to talk today about the two high volume nodes that I have highlighted on the chart, where they range, what it means for price to be in them, what we can expect if price leaves them, and how price will likely behave in between those zones in the low volume node. All right. So right now, Bitcoin has shown a lot of buying power in this current range that we're in. This high volume node stretches from approximately 66,500 to about 68,500. This is a good price for both buyers and sellers. Lots of volume was traded at this price point, and above and around this price point is a place that traders are very comfortable to transact at. So we can expect price to hang out in a high volume node quite a bit. It can act as it can act as a static level of support. It can act as a static level of resistance. It can also act as a magnet for price to oscillate within, because that's where it wants to be. Traders are very happy to transact there. Traders are much less happy to transact at these higher prices above the high volume node, and in between, in this relatively low volume node, in between this high volume node and this high volume node. So overall, my expectations are to see price consolidate within this high volume node. It's only when price leaves the high volume node, when it goes below 66,500, we enter a low volume node range that stretches down to about $64,000. In a low volume node, price tends to move very rapidly, and these are the areas where we can get V-shaped bullish reversals or bearish reversals if we're coming from the opposite direction. And in this particular situation, we would be talking about a bullish reversal back up to the upside. This could take the form of either a quick fake out on the daily time frame and then right back up into the HVN. All right, something like a liquidation hunt or a stop wick. But what we will typically not see is price move down into the LVN and then consolidate there. We typically will not see that. Price does not like to remain within an LVN. Price likes to move through an LVN quite quickly. So my expectations are for price to consolidate within our current HVN with support down around 66,500, with resistance up at approximately 68,500, and to stay here until we get some resolution on the election tomorrow. If we descend below 66,500, we're likely going to move quite rapidly. It will likely be a short-term opportunity for a profitable short. But we also need to be on the lookout for potential bullish reversals within that range as well. And finally, perhaps the least attractive option is price falling all the way down through the LVN and finding acceptance in the range between 62,600 and 64,000. That would be the secondary HVN, where we'll also likely see price consolidate before making a decisive move, breaking out or breaking down. So in the short term, I would consider price bullish in or above our current high volume node from 66,500 to 68,500, and I would expect relatively low volatility. I would expect high volatility below our current HVN. We also have guppy range confirmation. We are breaching back into the upper boundary of the fast guppy range, and so it is a potential that we do find support here. However, descending into the LVN also gives us would give us a pullback down to the bottom of the fast band of the guppy EMA, potentially acting as support there as well. On the daily time frame, we have our 6th consecutive red day in a row. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 6th consecutive red day in a row. We are currently at and passing through the mid-range of the Bollinger Bands. We are currently testing the support of the Gann swing high-low indicator, which put us into a bullish trend back here on October 14th. We are currently testing the top of the guppy slow band. As we can see, volatility is rather low right now and remains low. We didn't get any of that big spike in volatility, so we're nowhere near really being overbought, so to say, in terms of volatility. And time transformation has crossed down below into the bearish control zone, as well as decision price momentum oscillator flipping to the downside as well. Now, per my daily strategy, should we then get a daily close below the CM, I do have to take a daily short as per my strategy. However, from the perspective of a swing trader, I am very bullish, guys. I am very bullish. So a breakdown here does mean a big short bet, but I don't expect it to last very long. As we can see on the 4-hour time frame as well, Bitcoin does have some good support here. We did stop and make a couple plunges down, establishing this area as support. Again, that confirms with that approximately $66,500 zone as well. So it is potential that we find some support here as well over the next day. Hourly time transformation strategy hasn't given any clean signals yet, since we had some short signals over here on Friday that played off quite nicely. Again, we called both a Bitcoin and Ethereum short for free in our Discord. So if you guys want to get access to those signals, you guys can join our Discord for free. Nothing here so far. We do see rejections from the hourly guppy. We do see time transformation getting very close. We are actually in overbought territory right now. You guys can't really see that. Excuse me. Yeah. So we are actually in overbought territory right now with vol quite high, getting close to that area here. So something I could consider seeing here. We potentially already have it, potentially one more slight plunge down before we do get a more recovery movement back up to retest the guppy, or potentially just resume the bullish trend either way. Our Mink strategy did give two long signal, a continuation long, which we wouldn't have taken because we weren't in the initial long, but it did give the initial long signal this morning, which is a trade we took, a trade we failed on. We can see the take profit short down here as well, indicating that price is getting close to oversold as well. Nothing on the time transformation front today for signals, but a failed long on the Mink strategy today. Okay, guys. So that's all the technical analysis we have for today, but that is not the end of this video. Because we have such an important day coming up tomorrow, and because of my role as someone on the internet with a viewership, some of you look up to me. I do want to speak from the heart. So caution, what's going to come next is unscripted. It is from my heart, and it is political in nature. If you'd prefer to not know my political views, it's a good time to flip to another video and come back after the election. But if you've been watching my content and you want to know more about the man behind the charts, let's proceed. This is your trigger warning. So I can't vote for the perfect candidate. You're never able to, because there is no such thing as a perfect candidate. Always generally, you vote for the lesser of two evils. So today, instead of discussing policies or personalities, I want to talk about the issues that I think are vital to the health of our nation in descending order. So I'll start off with what I think is the most important, and finish with what I think is the least important. Not that it's not important, it's just rank order of values. This is by no means an exhaustive list, as I care about a great number of issues and I have opinions on just about everything, but I have tried to keep this as concise as possible. So the number one issue for me going into this election tomorrow is a candidate that will be diplomatic and will avoid or diffuse global conflicts. Let's be clear. The most existential threat to humanity has for 80 years been the threat of nuclear war. Avoiding this at all costs is my highest value. Now, I'm not anti-war. I'm not a pacifist. I think the strong should protect the weak. And if there is true evil in the world where armed intervention will make a meaningful impact, I think that's good. But unnecessary wars and policing the globe is not the job of the American military. Now, this is going to be controversial, but I don't think Russia is our enemy, or perhaps it would be more appropriate to say Russia doesn't need to be our enemy. The Cold War is over. The USSR is defeated. The ideology of communism is a slow burn, existential threat to freedom and human prosperity. The sociological lessons of the 20th century showed that conclusively. Everywhere communism and socialism have been implemented, human misery has followed. Period. I'm not going to sit here and defend the negative things about Russia. Do they enjoy as much freedom as Americans? And is amplifying the citizens' rights and diminishing the power of government a fundamental principle of their society like ours? No. But they are fundamentally a lot more like us than not like us, okay? Russia could and should be an American ally. I don't see how that would be negative for the future of humanity. Would we rather see them completely ally with China, especially as China's influence is expanding rapidly throughout Asia and globally? I don't see how that's in our best interest. But this, for me, really comes down to a simple concept. Next to America, Russia has the largest stockpile of nuclear weapons on Earth. Any ideas of a conventional war with Russia seem dead on arrival. They're a non-starter with that sort of Damocles hanging over the situation. And say what you will about their leader, I am certainly not a fan. But it is clear that he is by far not the worst leader the country has had in the past 100 years. If we were to surgically depose him, even if we could accomplish that, do we really believe that whoever came in to fill that void would be any better? So I think a unified Russia under a strong leader is a much more desirable situation than Russia devolving into a band of federations ruled by generals or warlords, each trying to vie for their own state and each with their own stockpile of nukes. Do you think that is a safer situation for the world? And I've been lucky enough over the years to make quite a few friends in Russia. And again, what I've noticed is that they're just people who want to be free and happy and pursue their own self-interest like every other person from either of the country that I've ever met. Our similarities and mutual passions far outweigh our differences overwhelmingly. Now, of course, I fully denounce the war in Ukraine and consider Russia's invasion of it to go against the core principles that the United States has long upheld: national sovereignty, human rights, and the importance of democratic governments. So that's it. I want a president that will bring an end to the war in Ukraine, not a continuation of it. I want a president that will seek to reduce tensions with Russia, not fan them, and ideally influence them to continue to adopt Western practices and ideology. I don't want another Cold War. I don't want to live under the threat of nuclear war.
Duck and cover. Remember what to do if the atom bomb explodes right then. It's a bomb. Duck and cover.
And I don't want myself or my son to go die in another world war. So I don't have all the answers to the current conflict, but I do know that this rabid anti-Russian sentiment is not a healthy or safe position for the country to hold. Number two, the economy. I want a president dedicated to strengthening and promoting the American economy. I do not want to vote for a president that is anti-business. I want a president that is pro-business is willing to massively cut regulation to incentivize domestic job creation and wage growth. I want a president dedicated to encouraging entrepreneurship and innovation in energy production, technology, and space development. I want a president that will recenter our economy on actual free market principles, not crony capitalism. And I mean, there's so much I could say here, but it's pretty simple. Like pro-business, drill baby drill, cut taxes, cut regulation, let's go. I mean, that's the map for success. That's the roadmap to success and human prosperity. Number 3, stopping the slow burn into socialism. The American nation has been on a slow burn, continually tightening the ratchet click by click towards socialism. And that is terrifying as the country that successfully had a huge impact in stopping the spread of communism across the world. Everyone is concerned about inflation. Inflation is the biggest topic for this election. Unfortunately, it seems like all of us have forgotten the wisdom of Milton Friedman. Inflation is created in one place only, and that is in Washington, D.C. And it's caused by one thing and one thing only: excess government spending.
Inflation is the most destructive disease known to modern societies. There is nothing which will destroy a society so thoroughly and so fully as letting inflation run riot. Inflation doesn't arise because you got consumers who are spendthrift. They've always been spendthrift. It doesn't arise because you've got businessmen who are greedy. They've always been greedy. Inflation arises because we as citizens have been asking you as politicians to perform an impossible task. We've been asking you to spend somebody else's money on us, but not to spend our money on anybody else. Everybody talks against inflation, but what he means is that he wants the prices of the things he sells to go up and the prices of the things he buys to go down. The real tax on the American people is not what you label taxes. It's total spending. If Congress spends $50 billion more than it takes in, if government spends $50 billion, who do you suppose pays that $50 billion?
Of course.
The Arab sheiks aren't paying it. Santa Claus isn't paying it. The Tooth Fairy isn't paying it. You and I, as taxpayers, are paying it indirectly through hidden taxation.
Period. That's it. The continuing growth of government is an existential threat to the American experiment. The American government is completely out of control, and it has been out of control for a long time. They are on a complete bender of unlimited money, and we as American citizens continue to suffer for their excesses. Government is now involved at all levels of American business. They have their hands in everything. Government intervention in the economy is one of the worst things in the world. All we need to remember are the timeless words of Adam Smith, that millions of people, without knowing it, without even wanting it, through pursuing their own self-interest in a free market, end up benefiting the whole. Government, without knowing it, through pursuing what they think is best for others, end up benefiting the few and hurting the whole. It's a simple principle. Increased intervention by the government in our economy will increasingly lead to more inefficiency, stagnation, an increase in tax burdens, reduced individual freedom and choice, and dependency on government programs and government as a whole. I'm going to vote for a president that is truly pro-business, truly pro-America, and is willing to unshackle the economic productive power of the American engine. Drill, baby, drill. Number 4, woke ideology, racial tensions, and meritocracy. I'm going to vote for a president that will put a stop to the victim Olympics. Encourage us to value and judge our fellow man based on the content of their character and their accomplishments, not the color of their skin or their sexual identity. Racial tensions are significantly worse in this country than they were 20 years ago, which seems ridiculous after seeing Obama get voted into the most powerful office in the world. Again, we have so much more in common than divides us, and we all share the same national identity as Americans. Just Americans. No hyphen required. Western civilization ended the atrocious practices of slavery, which was an abomination that had been carried out by every civilization ever. And to this day, there are more slaves in the world now than there ever were under the Atlantic slave trade. And guess where those slaves are? In countries where the reach of Western civilization is the least powerful. I want to celebrate our history of spreading freedom and prosperity, of the liberation of our fellow man from the shackles of slavery, communism, socialism, and other forms of tyranny. I want to vote for a president that is committed to not dividing us as Americans based on race, religion, ethnicity, or sexual identity or orientation. I want a president that promotes a unified America where all have equal protection under the law and equal opportunity in a meritocratic system. I want excellence to be championed. I want goodness to be a virtue. I want America to have the best of everything, and I want us to continue to pull more and more people out of poverty, which history has shown us that an open and free market and a legal system where all are equally protected based on the precedent of British common law, that does that better than any other system known to man or ever conceived. Finally, immigration reform. I feel like I'm going to piss off everybody with this. Well, both sides of the aisle, let's say. But here we go, buckle up. Immigration is one of the most important issues facing America right now, and it is making us feel incredibly divided and mistrustful of our fellow man. I believe both sides have quite a radical take on this, and as in all things, generally, the best path forward is somewhere in the middle. So, number one, I want to vote for a president that will strengthen border security and enforce our existing immigration laws. Reducing illegal entry and enforcing existing laws is a foundational step towards actual sustainable reform. I want a president that will modernize the legal immigration system. We need an immigration system that meets the needs of our current economy and demographic reality. We need to prioritize skilled workers and create clear pathways for essential labor like agriculture and technology, and reduce the backlog so people don't have to wait years to enter legally when we want them because they're great and we want them over here. I want a president that will establish a merit-based immigration system. I would love for us to adopt a points-based system like Canada or Australia, where things like skills, education, and work experience are prioritized. This would allow us to attract the talent that would meet our specific needs while ensuring that immigration indeed benefits the country's long-term growth. The most controversial thing, I think, is what to do about all the currently undocumented immigrants living in America. Now, I can actually see both sides of the aisle on this, but neither side is going to get completely what they want. I think that mass deportations will likely create more problems than they will solve, if only by increasing our mistrust in our fellow citizens and stoking racial tensions. I don't think that's healthy. First, I think that any undocumented immigrants who are in our country who have committed crimes should be deported. That's simple. This will give a lot of peace of mind to Americans, and I think calm a lot of people on the right down. For the ones who haven't committed any crimes and that have been here for a long time, are benefiting the economy, and are not just a drain on our welfare state, controversial, I think we're going to need a reasonable path to legalization. That would allow millions of people to pay taxes, buy property, and contribute openly in society. I know that's a controversial take, but I just don't see a reasonable alternative. Next, I want a president that is going to completely reform and streamline the asylum process. We need much, much clearer criteria. We need to reduce our backlog, and we need to make sure we can do adjudications quickly. For people who are fleeing genuine persecution, I think the United States does have a moral obligation to offer them protection. But our asylum system, as it currently is being grossly abused right now. And we need to prevent that. And we need to prevent those who are just fleeing poverty from abusing our system as a way to get into our country. So that's it. Those are the 5 things I think are the most important issues on the ballot tomorrow. Those 5 things are what I'm voting for. Now, unfortunately, there is not a candidate on the ballot that perfectly embodies all of my values and desires. So as I have to do every 4 years, I'm forced to make a choice that I believe is best for America. Now, this election cycle, to me, that choice seems to be very, very clear. And tomorrow, I will go do my civic duty to let my voice be heard and do my part to steer America in the direction that I think is best. I encourage you to as well. If you're an American and you're watching this, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, go out, do your civic duty, and let your voice be heard. And let me be very clear. even if you completely disagree with me and think my views are reprehensible. I celebrate your right to democracy, and I celebrate your right to go out and cast your vote however you see fit. You are not my enemy, fellow American citizen. You are my fellow American. And we may disagree on things, but I think we have far more in common than we have that divides us. And even if you go make a vote that I would disagree with, I think you should be celebrated for caring enough about our country to go cast your ballot. Everyone who votes tomorrow is making a clear declaration that they care enough about the future of this country to do something about it. And whoever wins tomorrow, remember, politics is one of the worst things to be obsessed with because it strengthens a belief that the best way to improve your life is to vote for someone else rather than take responsibility for your own life and create the change you want yourself. It's no coincidence that we have a very government addicted society and a politically radicalized society. We could blame mainstream media, but most of us have gone along with this. We're addicted to government money, governmental outcomes, and talking about government. This was not the intent of the American experiment. The American experiment was all about empowering the individual and restraining government from its ability to interfere or exert tyrannical power over the individual. Do the decisions of government affect your life? Undoubtedly. But decisions from your local government affect your life more severely than the decisions from your state government or from your federal government. No matter how bad it gets, you have the power within you to rise up, change your circumstances, work your butt off, and strive toward achieving your goals. You will always have that power. And I highly recommend, no matter what side of the aisle you're on and whoever wins, to not lose sight of that precious light and power within you to shape your local environment to your will. No matter who wins the election this week, you are not powerless. You are powerful, and you can better yourself, your family, and your community through your powerful actions. If you think I've gotten anything wrong, I'd love to talk about it. Leave a comment down below and tell me what you think, if you disagree with me or if you agree with me. Until tomorrow, ladies and gentlemen, trade safely, and for God's sakes, get off the internet and go read some books.